I'm Samantha, 35 years old, and last Thanksgiving, my parents turned me and my 7-year-old son Noah away at their doorstep. "Rachel doesn't want to see you," my dad mumbled, blocking the entrance while the smell of turkey wafted past him. My little boy clutched his handmade cards as my sister's laughter echoed from inside. Driving away, Noah asked through tears, "Mommy, why doesn't Grandma want us for dinner?" I gripped the steering wheel, wondering the same thing. Before I dive into this heartbreaking story, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever felt betrayed by your own family. Growing up in suburban Chicago, our family photos painted the perfect picture. My parents, Margaret and Thomas Wilson, created a loving home filled with traditions and expectations. Dad worked as a business executive, always pushing us to excel, while Mom taught elementary school before retiring to be the consummate homemaker. Our split-level house with its manicured lawn hosted barbecues in summer and holiday gatherings that neighbors envied. From the beginning, my sister Rachel and I fell into distinct roles. 3 years younger, Rachel became the perfect daughter. Straight A's, pristine bedroom, and the diplomatic personality that never caused waves. I wasn't exactly rebellious, but I questioned things, pursued my own interests rather than Dad's suggestions, and occasionally broke curfew. Mom would say with a sigh, "Why can't you be more like your sister?" While Rachel received praise for achievements I felt came easily to her. My sanctuary was my grandmother Eleanor's house. Grandma lived 20 minutes away, and I'd bike there whenever family tension built. "You and Rachel are different flowers from the same garden," she'd tell me while teaching me to bake her famous apple pie. "Never try to be a rose if you're meant to be a wildflower." When she passed away 5 years ago from cancer, I lost my biggest supporter. At her funeral, even my grief seemed wrong to my family, too loud, too messy compared to Rachel's dignified tears. My life took an unexpected turn at 28 when I discovered I was pregnant. Daniel, my boyfriend of 8 months, initially seemed supportive but disappeared 3 months later, leaving only a note claiming he wasn't ready for fatherhood. I decided to continue the pregnancy alone, giving birth to Noah while my mother held my hand despite her obvious disappointment at the circumstances. "A child needs a father," she reminded me weekly, as if I could magically produce Daniel from thin air. The early years with Noah weren't easy. I returned to my nursing job at Chicago Memorial when he was 4 months old, juggling night shifts and daycare bills. My parents helped occasionally, watching Noah on weekends or contributing to his preschool tuition, but each gesture came wrapped in judgment. If you'd finished your master's degree before having him, or if you'd chosen someone more reliable. Meanwhile, Rachel married her college sweetheart, Jason, in a lavish ceremony where I served as bridesmaid despite feeling like an accessory to showcase her superior life choices. They bought a house in the same neighborhood as our parents, pursued high-powered careers, Rachel in marketing, Jason in finance, and began what became a years-long struggle with fertility treatments. Through it all, Noah became my joy and purpose. With curly brown hair and thoughtful eyes, he grew into a sensitive, artistic child who loved dinosaurs and space. Despite the family tension, he adored his grandparents, especially Grandpa Thomas, who would build elaborate block towers with him and sneak him cookies when Margaret wasn't looking. Last summer brought what I thought was a turning point. During a family barbecue, I overheard my father defending my parenting to a nosy neighbor. "Samantha is an exceptional mother," he'd said firmly. "Noah is lucky to have her." That night, Mom hugged me longer than usual when we left. These small gestures made me believe we were finally moving beyond the old dynamics, that my family was beginning to see and accept me as I was. Which is why the Thanksgiving rejection cuts so deeply. After years of trying to prove myself worthy of unconditional love, I thought we'd finally turned a corner. I couldn't have been more wrong. November arrived with uncharacteristic warmth for Chicago, matching Noah's excitement about the upcoming holiday. Ever since Halloween, he'd been talking about Thanksgiving at Grandma and Grandpa's house. Their home represented everything magical about holidays: The formal dining room with the special china, Grandma's homemade rolls, and the kids' table in the kitchen where he and our cousin's children would giggle over turkey-shaped cookies. "Can I sit at the big table this year?" Noah asked one evening as I tucked him into bed, his dinosaur pajamas almost too small for his growing frame. "I'm 7 now. That's pretty grown up." "We'll see, buddy," I said, kissing his forehead. "But you know the kids always have more fun at their own table." In truth, I preferred him at the kids' table, away from the undercurrents of adult conversation that could suddenly turn tense when certain topics arose, usually something about my life choices or Rachel's achievements. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, I started preparations. Noah and I spent a Saturday afternoon selecting new outfits, a forest green sweater for him that matched his eyes, and a burgundy dress for me that I hoped looked both festive and mature. I wanted to present the image of success, of having my life together, even if my bank account told a different story after recent car repairs. "We should make something to bring," Noah suggested while we shopped. "Grandma likes when people help." So we added pumpkin pie ingredients to our list, using Grandma Eleanor's recipe that I'd memorized years ago. Noah proved to be an enthusiastic baker, even if more flour ended up on our kitchen floor than in the mixing bowl. 3 days before Thanksgiving, I called Mom to confirm our arrival time and ask what else we could bring besides the pie. "Oh, Samantha," she answered, her voice carrying an odd note I couldn't quite place. About Thursday. My stomach tightened. "Is everything okay? We're still on for 2 o'clock, right?" Yes, she said quickly. 2 is fine. It's just..." She paused, and I heard muffled voices in the background. "Mom? What's going on?" "Nothing, dear. Just checking if Noah still likes cranberry sauce. I'm making the homemade kind." The conversation continued with several similar awkward pauses, but I dismissed my unease. Mom had always been a worrier, especially around holidays when she felt pressure to create perfect family memories. The day before Thanksgiving, Noah spent the afternoon making handmade cards for everyone, elaborate constructions of colored paper, stickers, and wobbly handwriting declaring why he was thankful for each family member. For Grandpa, he wrote about fishing trips. For Grandma, her cookies and hugs. For Aunt Rachel and Uncle Jason, he thanked them for the astronaut Lego set from his birthday. "This is my best work," he declared seriously, showing me Rachel's card adorned with star stickers. Aunt Rachel likes fancy things. That night, I packed our overnight bag, planning to stay at my parents' house rather than drive back to the city after dinner. I packed Noah's favorite stuffed triceratops and my own sleeping pills, just in case family tension made sleep elusive. Thanksgiving morning dawned clear and crisp. Noah woke early, bouncing on my bed with holiday excitement. "Is it time to go to Grandma's yet?" he asked for the 3rd time before breakfast. "Not until noon, buddy. We have 4 hours to get ready." Those 4 hours crawled by as Noah alternated between excitement and impatience. Finally, with the pie carefully secured on the back seat floor and our overnight bag in the trunk, we began the 30-minute drive to the suburbs. 10 minutes from my parents' house, my phone chimed with a text. Glancing at it quickly at a stoplight, I saw Rachel's name. "Just checking if you're still coming today." The message seemed odd, almost hopeful that I might cancel. I didn't respond, focusing instead on Noah's chatter about which Christmas movies we should watch after Thanksgiving dinner. Turning onto my parents' street, I immediately noticed something unusual. The driveway and curb were lined with unfamiliar cars, more than our usual family gathering would warrant. I recognized Jason's silver Audi, but spotted several vehicles I'd never seen before. "Looks like Grandma and Grandpa invited extra people," I told Noah as we parked across the street. "More people to see my cards," he responded cheerfully, gathering his creations as I lifted the pie from the back seat. Walking up the familiar brick path to the front door, I felt a strange apprehension, like walking into an exam I hadn't studied for. Noah skipped ahead, his small dress shoes clicking on the pavement, completely unaware of the knot forming in my stomach. Noah reached the door first and pressed the doorbell, bouncing slightly on his toes as he clutched a stack of handmade cards. Usually, my mother would answer within seconds, enveloping us in hugs and the scent of her floral perfume. This time, we waited. Noah pressed the bell again, looking back at me with confusion. Eventually, the door opened, but instead of Mom's welcoming smile, my father stood in the doorway. Thomas Wilson was still an imposing figure at 68, tall, with silver hair and the straight posture of someone who spent decades commanding boardrooms. Today, however, he seemed uncomfortable, his usual confidence replaced by a strange hesitation. "Grandpa!" Noah exclaimed, wrapping his arms around my father's legs. Dad patted Noah's head absently, his eyes fixed on me. "Samantha," he said, his voice unusually formal. "Could I have a word with you?" Rather than stepping aside to let us in, he moved onto the porch, partially closing the door behind him. From inside, I could hear the murmur of conversation and laughter, smells of turkey and stuffing wafting through the crack in the door. "What's wrong, Dad?" I asked, balancing the pie in one hand while placing the other protectively on Noah's shoulder. He cleared his throat, looking past me to the street. "There's been a situation." "What kind of situation?" My voice sharpened as anxiety crept up my spine. "Rachel arrived early with Jason. They brought his parents and sister's family," he began, still not meeting my eyes. "She told us some news. She's pregnant, Samantha. After all their trying, the latest round of treatments worked." "That's wonderful," I said, genuinely happy for my sister despite our complicated relationship. "All the more reason to celebrate today, right?" Dad shifted his weight, hands sliding into his pockets, a gesture I recognized from childhood when he had to deliver bad news. "The thing is, Rachel is very concerned about stress affecting the pregnancy. Her doctor has warned her." "What does that have to do with Thanksgiving dinner?" I interrupted, though a sickening realization was already forming. "She doesn't want to see you today," he said finally, the words coming out in a rush. "She says your presence would be too stressful given your history. She's worried about the baby." I stood frozen, the pie suddenly heavy in my hands. Noah looked between us, confusion evident on his small face. "You're telling me that Rachel doesn't want me at Thanksgiving dinner, and you're what? Uninviting us?" My voice rose despite my effort to control it. Dad glanced nervously at the door. "It's just this one time, Samantha. Rachel needs special consideration now. You understand, don't you? You're a mother." "Yes, I am a mother," I said, nodding toward Noah, who was clutching his cards tighter, sensing the tension. "And my son has been looking forward to this dinner for weeks. He made cards for everyone." As if on cue, Noah held up the carefully crafted cards. "I made one for Aunt Rachel with stars because she likes fancy things," he said, his voice small. Dad looked at Noah, genuine regret crossing his face. "That's very nice, buddy. Maybe you can give it to her another time." "Another time?" I echoed, disbelief giving way to anger. "So, you're actually turning us away? On Thanksgiving?" He reached into his back pocket and pulled out his wallet. "Look, I know this is disappointing." Here, he extended several bills toward me. "Take Noah somewhere nice for dinner. The Marriott is a good Thanksgiving buffet." The offering of money, as if our exclusion could be compensated with cash, broke something in me. I stepped back, refusing to take it. "Keep your money," I said, my voice shaking. "And explain to me how you and Mom can choose Rachel's comfort over your own grandson." Dad's expression hardened slightly. "Don't make this more difficult, Samantha. It's one dinner. Rachel has been through so much with the fertility treatments, and now that she's finally pregnant, and I haven't been through anything, right?" I cut him off. "Single motherhood, working full-time, raising Noah alone, that's all just been a walk in the park." From inside, I heard my mother's voice. "Thomas? Is everything all right?" The door opened wider, revealing Mom in her holiday apron, her face falling as she took in the scene on the porch. Behind her, I caught a glimpse of the dining room, table already set with a good china, centerpiece of autumn flowers in place. "What's happening?" Noah asked, tugging at my coat. "Aren't we going inside, Mommy?" The innocence of his question made my eyes burn with unshed tears. My mother stepped forward, reaching for him, but I pulled Noah closer. "No, "Sweetheart, we're not going inside," I said, finding strength despite the lump in my throat. "Apparently, we're not welcome at Grandma and Grandpa's Thanksgiving this year." My mother's face crumpled. "Samantha, please understand. Rachel is in a delicate condition." "Stop," I said, holding up my hand. "Just stop. I understand perfectly. I've always understood where I stand in this family." I thrust the pie into my father's hands. "Here's Grandma Eleanor's recipe. Enjoy it without us." Taking Noah's hand, I turned and walked down the path, his small legs hurrying to keep up. Behind us, I heard my mother call my name, but I didn't look back. In the car, Noah buckled himself in silently, his stack of cards forgotten on the seat beside him. As I started the engine, I saw my father still standing on the porch, the pie in his hands, watching us. "Why doesn't Grandma want us for Thanksgiving?" Noah asked as we pulled away from the curb, his voice small and confused. I had no answer that wouldn't break his heart even more. As soon as we turned the corner from my parents' street, the tears I'd been holding back spilled over. I pulled into the empty parking lot of a closed hardware store, put the car in park, and covered my face with my hands, trying to muffle the sobs that racked my body. "Mommy." Noah's concerned voice cut through my breakdown. "Are you okay?" I quickly wiped my eyes, forcing a smile that felt like it might crack my face. "I'm fine, buddy. Just a little sad." "Is it because we can't have Thanksgiving with Grandma and Grandpa?" he asked, his perception breaking my heart all over again. "Yes," I admitted, seeing no point in lying. "But you know what? We'll have our own special Thanksgiving. Just you and me." Noah looked down at his handmade cards, now slightly bent from being clutched too tightly. "But I made these for everybody. And Grandma was going to make her special mashed potatoes with the lumps left in." The specific detail, the mashed potatoes I'd grown up eating, that my mother always made exactly how I liked them, nearly undid me again. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself for Noah's sake. "Where are we going to eat turkey now?" he asked, looking out at the rows of closed shops and empty parking lots. The reality of our situation hit me. It was Thanksgiving Day, nearly 3 in the afternoon, and most restaurants would either be closed or fully booked. "Let me make a call," I said, reaching for my phone. I dialed Jessica, my best friend since college, but remembered too late that she was in Michigan visiting her parents. Still, I left a voicemail, my voice breaking as I briefly explained what had happened. We drove aimlessly through suburban streets lined with homes where families were gathering. Through windows, I caught glimpses of people laughing, setting tables, living out the holiday I'd expected to have. Each scene felt like salt in an open wound. Noah was unusually quiet in the back seat, his normal chatter replaced by silence as he stared out the window. I kept glancing at him in the rearview mirror, wishing I could shield him from this pain, hating that my family conflicts were affecting him. As we drove, memories ambushed me. Thanksgivings past when Rachel and I would help Mom in the kitchen, Dad carving the turkey with ceremonial precision, the annual family photo on the living room sofa. Last year, despite the usual undercurrents of tension, we'd played charades after dinner, and I remembered Noah's delighted laughter when Grandpa pretended to be a T-Rex. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "I'm so sorry, honey. This isn't what I wanted. Rachel was very insistent, and your father thought it best to keep peace. Please understand." Understand? What exactly was I supposed to understand? That my sister's comfort would always matter more than mine? That my son was collateral damage in a family power struggle? I didn't respond, focusing instead on finding somewhere, anywhere we could salvage our Thanksgiving. After nearly an hour of driving, I spotted a diner with its lights on and neon, open sign glowing in the window. The parking lot held a few cars, giving me hope. "How about here?" I asked Noah, trying to inject enthusiasm into my voice. "Diners make the best pie." He nodded silently, and I felt another crack in my heart. Noah was normally so expressive, so quick with questions and observations. His silence spoke volumes about how deeply our rejection had affected him. Inside, the diner was warm and smelled of coffee and gravy. A few tables were occupied, Mostly elderly people dining alone or in pairs, a couple of truckers at the counter. No families.
No celebración.
Anywhere you'd like, said the waitress, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a name tag that read Linda. She handed us menus and gave Noah a sympathetic smile. We've got a turkey special today. Not fancy, but it does the trick. We settled into a booth by the window. Noah opened his menu but stared at it without really seeing it. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. I know this isn't what we planned, but we're together. That's what matters most. He nodded again, but his eyes remained downcast. When Linda returned for our order, she seemed to sense our distress. Tough day? She asked gently. Our other plans fell through, I said, the understatement of the year. She looked at Noah, then back at me, understanding dawning in her eyes. Family stuff, huh? Been there. Tell you what, turkey special is on the house for the little guy. Her small kindness, a stranger showing more compassion than my own parents had, made my eyes well up again. Thank you, I managed. While waiting for our food, my phone buzzed repeatedly. A text from Dad. Your mother is upset. You shouldn't have left like that. As if I'd had a choice. Another from Mom. Please tell Noah Grandma loves him very much. Then one from an unexpected source, Jason, Rachel's husband. Sorry about today. Not my call. Hope you guys find somewhere nice. Each message twisted the knife deeper. They were sorry, but not sorry enough to stand up to Rachel, not sorry enough to choose differently. When our food arrived, turkey, mashed potatoes, nothing like Mom's, gravy, and a scoop of canned cranberry sauce. Noah picked at it listlessly. It's not the same, he said softly. No, it's not, I agreed, deciding honesty was better than forced cheerfulness. But sometimes things don't go as planned, and we have to make the best of it. Why doesn't Aunt Rachel want to see us? He asked suddenly, looking up with eyes too serious for a 7-year-old. Did I do something bad?
No,
I said firmly, reaching for his hand again. Absolutely not. This has nothing to do with you, Noah. Aunt Rachel and we've had some disagreements over the years. Adult stuff. Is it because I'm too noisy? She told me once I talked too much about dinosaurs. The revelation that Rachel had criticized my son to his face ignited a fresh wave of anger. You are perfect exactly as you are, I told him fiercely. Your dinosaur facts are amazing, and anyone who doesn't want to hear them is missing out. We finished our meal in relative silence. Linda brought us each a slice of pumpkin pie that couldn't compare to the one we'd left on my parents' porch, but we ate it anyway. By the time we left, darkness had fallen, and the temperature had dropped. Where are we going now? Noah asked as we got back in the car. It was a good question. Going home to our empty apartment seemed unbearably depressing, but we had nowhere else to go. How about a hotel? I suggested impulsively. We could get a room with a big TV and watch movies all night. Noah's face brightened slightly at this unexpected adventure. 20 minutes later, we checked into a Holiday Inn, our overnight bag from the car now serving an unintended purpose. In the anonymous hotel room, Noah finally unwound enough to change into his dinosaur pajamas and bounce on the bed while flipping through TV channels. I sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through unanswered messages on my phone, feeling utterly drained. When Noah finally fell asleep clutching his triceratops, I went into the bathroom, closed the door, and cried silently into a hotel towel for the family dinner we'd missed, for my son's confusion, for the realization that no matter how much I longed for my family's unconditional acceptance, I might never receive it. I woke the next morning to Noah standing beside the hotel bed, already dressed in yesterday's clothes. Can we call Grandma? He asked, his face hopeful in the gray morning light filtering through the cheap curtains. Maybe we can go there for leftovers. His innocent question, this readiness to forgive and forget, made my chest ache. Let's have breakfast first, I said, buying time. The hotel has a waffle maker downstairs. While Noah enthusiastically created a tower of waffles at the breakfast buffet, I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from my mother, 1 from my father, and a text from Jessica. Just got your message. What the actual hell? Call me ASAP. But it was a notification from Facebook that stopped me cold. Rachel had posted photos of yesterday's Thanksgiving. Our family gathered around the table I should have been sitting at, smiling faces caught mid-laugh, the turkey centerpiece on Grandma's special platter. The caption read, "So grateful for perfect family holidays. Best Thanksgiving ever, especially with our special news. Baby Graham arriving in May. #blessed, #family first." My hands shook as I stared at the images. My mother's arm around Rachel, my father carving the turkey, Jason's parents whom I'd met several times looking perfectly at home in my family's dining room. The carefully curated scene of family harmony made possible by my exclusion. "Mommy, are you okay? Your face looks mad," Noah observed, returning to our table with his precarious waffle stack. I locked my phone screen quickly. "I'm fine, buddy." That's an impressive breakfast construction project. After checking out of the hotel, I decided we needed to go home and regroup. The drive back to our apartment was quiet, Noah having exhausted his morning energy on waffle architecture. Back home, he retreated to his room with a half-hearted mention of Legos, while I sat at the kitchen table, finally allowing myself to confront the full situation. I called my parents' house, my anger having simmered overnight into a cold determination to make them acknowledge what they'd done. My father answered on the fourth ring. "Samantha," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "How are you?" "How am I?" I repeated incredulously. "How do you think I am, Dad? You turned your daughter and grandson away from Thanksgiving dinner." I heard him sigh. "I understand you're upset." "Upset doesn't begin to cover it," I interrupted. Noah kept asking what he did wrong. He thought Aunt Rachel didn't want him there because he talks too much about dinosaurs, something she apparently told him to his face. "I'm sure Rachel didn't mean." "Put Mom on the phone," I demanded, not interested in his rationalizations. After a pause and muffled conversation, my mother's voice came through, already thick with tears. "Samantha, darling, I'm so sorry about yesterday. It was horrible. I cried all evening." "But not horrible enough to stand up for me and Noah," I pointed out. "Not horrible enough to tell Rachel she was being unreasonable." "You don't understand," Mom said, lowering her voice. "Rachel gave us an ultimatum. Either you weren't invited, or she wouldn't come. With her being pregnant after trying for so long, and Jason's whole family already planning to be there. So you chose her," I concluded flatly. "Just like you always have." "That's not fair, Samantha. We love you both equally. Your actions tell a different story," I said. "And now Noah is hurt, confused, and thinks he did something wrong." "Let me talk to him," Mom pleaded. "I'll explain it's not his fault." "No," I said firmly. "I'm not putting him on the phone. He's been through enough." From the background, I heard my father's voice. "Tell her she needs to be more understanding. Rachel is in a delicate condition." The comment ignited my fury anew. I heard that. Put Dad back on the phone. When he came back on the line, I didn't give him a chance to speak. A delicate condition? Really? I was in a delicate condition 7 years ago, and I didn't use it as an excuse to manipulate everyone around me. I didn't make demands about who could be at family gatherings. And when Noah was born, I didn't get a fraction of the consideration you're giving Rachel. "That was different," he said stiffly. "You chose your circumstances." The implication that my pregnancy had been a mistake while Rachel's was a blessing left me speechless with rage. "Goodbye, Dad," I said finally. "Tell Mom not to call for a while. I need space." I hung up before he could respond, my hands shaking with adrenaline. I was just making coffee to calm my nerves when my phone rang again, Rachel's name on the screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. "What do you want, Rachel?" "I heard you've been giving Mom and Dad a hard time," she said, her voice carrying that familiar superior tone. "They're really upset." "They're upset? That's rich." "Look, I'm sorry if your feelings were hurt yesterday, but you need to understand." "No, you need to understand." I cut her off. "You don't get to exclude me and my son from family holidays and then act like I'm being unreasonable for being hurt." "This isn't just about you, Samantha," she said, her voice hardening.
I'm pregnant.
The doctor said to avoid stress. And I'm automatically stressful? What exactly did I do to earn that label? You know exactly what you did, she snapped. You've always been jealous of my relationship with Mom and Dad. You've always had to be different, difficult. And now with Noah, leave my son out of this, I warned. That's the problem. You can't separate yourself from being Noah's mom. It's your whole identity now. And honestly, the way you're raising him, so undisciplined. Her criticism of my parenting was the final straw. How dare you judge my parenting? You don't know the first thing about raising a child. One successful embryo transfer doesn't make you an expert. As soon as the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Attacking Rachel's fertility struggles was crossing a line, regardless of how hurt I felt. This is exactly why I didn't want you at Thanksgiving, she said, her voice ice cold. You're toxic, Samantha. Always have been. Noah would probably be better off without your influence. The suggestion that my son would be better without me, my deepest insecurity as a single mother, unleashed something primal in me. Don't you ever speak about my son again, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. Not to me, not to him, not to anyone. As far as I'm concerned, you're no longer his aunt. You're nothing to us. I ended the call and immediately blocked her number, then did the same for my parents. The finality of the action left me breathing hard, as if I'd run a marathon. From the hallway came a small voice. Mommy? I turned to find Noah standing there, his eyes wide and frightened. How much had he heard? Were you yelling at Aunt Rachel? He asked in a whisper. I knelt down to his level. I was. I'm sorry you heard that. Aunt Rachel and I had a disagreement. A big one, he observed solemnly. Your face is all red. I took a deep breath, trying to center myself. Sometimes adults don't get along, even when they're family. But that doesn't change how much I love you. Noah nodded, but didn't move closer for a hug as he normally would. Instead, he turned and went back to his room, closing the door quietly behind him. In that moment, seeing my son retreat from my anger, I realized that the family drama was affecting him more deeply than I'd understood. Whatever justified rage I felt toward my sister and parents, Noah was suffering as collateral damage, and that was unacceptable. Monday morning brought new challenges. Noah, usually excited for school, refused to get out of bed. My tummy hurts, he claimed, curled beneath his dinosaur comforter. I can't go to school today. I felt his forehead, no fever. Is your tummy really sick, or is it more of a worried feeling? His silence answered my question. After the weekend's events, Noah was exhibiting signs of emotional distress, and I couldn't ignore them. I called the hospital to take a rare personal day off, then emailed Noah's teacher explaining he wouldn't be in class. Within minutes, Mrs. Bennett, his second-grade teacher, called me back. Is everything all right with Noah? She asked, genuine concern in her voice. He's never absent, and last week he was so excited about making Thanksgiving cards for his family. Something about her kindness broke through my carefully constructed composure. Before I knew it, I was explaining the whole situation, the rejection at the door, Noah's confusion, the explosive argument with Rachel. I'm worried about him, I concluded. He's so quiet, not like himself at all. Children absorb family tension like sponges, Mrs. Bennett said gently. Even when we think we're protecting them. I don't know how to fix this, I admitted, the words painful to say aloud. I might have a suggestion, she offered. My sister is a family therapist, Dr. Andrea Wilson, no relation to your family, I assume. She sometimes has emergency openings for situations like yours. Would you like her number? I hesitated only briefly. Whatever my own feelings about therapy, my father had always dismissed it as paying someone to listen to your problems. Noah's well-being had to come first. Yes, please, I said. Remarkably, Dr. Wilson had a cancellation that very afternoon. I presented it to Noah as a special meeting with a lady who helps kids talk about big feelings, and he agreed with a shrug that worried me even more than outright resistance would have. Dr. Wilson's office surprised me. Not the sterile, clinical space I'd expected, but a warm room with comfortable furniture, plants, and a corner filled with toys and art supplies. She greeted Noah at eye level, her manner gentle but not condescending. "I thought maybe Noah could do some art while we talk," she suggested after introductions. Many children find it easier to express themselves through drawing. Noah settled at a small table with paper and markers while I briefly outlined the situation to Dr. Wilson in hushed tones. She listened without judgment, occasionally nodding. "Noah," she called softly after our whispered conversation. "I wonder if you could draw a picture of Thanksgiving. Whatever Thanksgiving means to you." While Noah drew, Dr. Wilson asked me questions about family patterns, my relationship with Rachel growing up, and how Noah typically handled conflict. Her approach was professional but warm, never making me feel blamed for the situation. After about 20 minutes, Noah brought his drawing over. I caught my breath when I saw it. He had drawn 2 separate houses. In one, a large table with many stick figures eating turkey. In the other, just 2 small figures, one clearly Noah and one me, sitting at a tiny table with sad faces. But it was the third element that broke my heart. Between the houses, he had drawn himself, alone, with a speech bubble containing a question mark. "Can you tell me about your picture, Noah?" Dr. Wilson asked. "This is Grandma and Grandpa's house with a big table and everyone happy," he explained, pointing. "And this is me and Mommy, at the diner being sad." His finger moved to the solitary figure between houses. "And this is me trying to figure out why I can't be in both places. Why can't everyone be together? Why do you think that is?" Dr. Wilson prompted gently. Noah looked down at his shoes. "Because I did something wrong. Or because Mommy did something wrong. Aunt Rachel doesn't want us there because we're bad." I had to fight back tears. "Noah, that's not true at all."
Dr.
Wilson gave me a reassuring nod, silently encouraging me to continue. "Sometimes," I said carefully, "grown-ups have disagreements that have nothing to do with children. Aunt Rachel and I have had some problems for a long time, since before you were even born. None of this is your fault. But why doesn't Grandma want us?" he persisted, the question piercing my heart. "Grandma and Grandpa are in a difficult position," I tried to explain. "They love everyone and don't want to make anyone upset." "They made you upset," Noah observed with a child's simple logic. "And me too." Dr. Wilson interjected gently. "Noah, it sounds like you're feeling caught in the middle of some big adult feelings. That's really hard for anyone, especially someone your age." Noah nodded, relief visible on his face at being understood. For the rest of the session, Dr. Wilson helped Noah express his feelings through more drawings and through playing with figurines representing family members. Meanwhile, I had my own revelation. Watching Noah process his pain, I realized that maintaining the toxic family dynamic wasn't just hurting me, it was hurting him too. As we left the session with a follow-up appointment scheduled, I made a decision. It was time to create boundaries with my family of origin and build something healthier for Noah, a chosen family based on genuine love and support rather than obligation and history. That evening, I called Jessica, who had left several concerned messages. "I heard the whole story from your voicemail," she said when I finally reached her.
"I'm so sorry, Sam. Your family really outdid themselves this time."
"I'm done trying to fit into their vision of what a daughter should be," I told her, a strange calm replacing the hurt and anger. Noah deserves better than watching his mother constantly seek approval that never comes. "What can I do?" Jessica asked, the simple offer of help bringing fresh tears to my eyes. "Actually, there is something," I said, an idea forming. "Are you free this weekend?" By Saturday, Jessica had organized an impromptu Friendsgiving at her loft apartment. She invited several mutual friends, colleagues from the hospital who had children Noah's age, and my neighbor Alicia and her son, who often had playdates with Noah. The gathering was nothing like my parents' formal Thanksgiving. Mismatched chairs around tables pushed together, potluck dishes instead of my mother's carefully planned menu, paper plates rather than fine china. But the laughter was genuine, the conversation supportive, and most importantly, Noah was smiling again, playing Uno with the other children while adults chatted nearby. "Look at him," Jessica said, nodding toward Noah, who was giggling as he placed a draw 4 card. That's the first time I've seen him really laugh since before Thanksgiving. I've been so focused on what we lost, I admitted, that I didn't see what we could build instead. As the gathering wound down, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was my father, apparently calling from my mother's phone since I'd blocked his number. Package left on your doorstep. Noah's Christmas gift from us. Early this year given circumstances. The message was typical of my father. Practical, unemotional, no acknowledgement of the deeper issues at hand. When we arrived home later that evening, a large package wrapped in Christmas paper waited by our door. Noah tore into it excitedly to reveal the model dinosaur excavation kit he'd been talking about for months, a thoughtful gift that showed my father had been listening to Noah's interest despite everything. Included was a card signed by both my parents, but clearly written by my mother. "We miss you both. When you're ready to talk, we're here." It wasn't an apology, but it was an opening. For Noah's sake, I decided to accept it as such, even as I determined to establish clearer boundaries moving forward. That night, as I tucked Noah into bed, he asked, "Are we still a family without Grandma and Grandpa and Aunt Rachel?" "We've always been a family, just you and me," I told him, smoothing his hair. "And we have a bigger family too, Jessica, your friends from school, the people who were at Friendsgiving today. Family isn't just about who you're related to. It's about who loves you and treats you with kindness." He considered this, his face serious in the glow of his dinosaur nightlight. "I like our chosen family," he said finally, using the term Dr. Wilson had introduced during our session. "Me too, buddy," I said, kissing his forehead. "Me too." 3 months after the Thanksgiving disaster, winter had loosened its grip on Chicago. The February thaw brought tentative sunshine and the first hint that spring would eventually arrive. Similarly, time had softened some of the raw edges of my family conflict, though the core issues remained. Following Dr. Wilson's advice, I had established clear boundaries with my parents. We had resumed limited contact in January, primarily through scheduled phone calls where my mother could speak with Noah. I insisted these calls focus only on positive topics: Noah's school projects, his latest dinosaur facts, normal grandmother-grandson conversations. Any attempt to discuss Rachel or the Thanksgiving incident resulted in me politely but firmly ending the call. For Noah's sake, I allowed supervised visits with my parents, lunch at a restaurant, an afternoon at the Children's Museum, but only when I could be present and only with the explicit understanding that Rachel would not be there. My father initially bristled at these conditions, accusing me of being difficult, but eventually accepted them when faced with the alternative of not seeing his grandson at all. "I don't understand why you can't just make peace with your sister," he commented during one such outing, while Noah was occupied with an interactive exhibit several feet away. "Making peace requires both parties to want resolution," I explained calmly. "Rachel called my parenting toxic and suggested Noah would be better off without me. That crosses a line I can't ignore." My mother, who had been listening silently, placed her hand on my arm.
"She didn't mean it, Samantha."
"You know how Rachel gets when she feels threatened." "That's the problem," I said, gently removing my arm from her touch. "Everyone always excuses Rachel's behavior while expecting me to be the bigger person. I'm done with that dynamic." Weekly therapy sessions with Dr. Wilson had helped both Noah and me process the family trauma. For Noah, art therapy allowed him to express complicated feelings he didn't have words for. For me, it meant confronting patterns established in childhood, my desperate need for parental approval, the competition with Rachel, my fear that I was somehow fundamentally less lovable. "Family patterns are powerful," Dr. Wilson observed during one session, "but they're not destiny. You're breaking the cycle for Noah, showing him that healthy relationships require mutual respect." Beyond therapy, I found unexpected support in a single-parent group that met Wednesday evenings at a community center near our apartment. There, I connected with others navigating similar challenges: holidays with complicated families, financial stresses, the exhaustion of being both mother and father. Particularly helpful was Diane, a divorced mother of 2 teenagers, who had walked a similar path years before. "The first holiday season is the hardest," she told me over coffee after one meeting. But eventually you build new traditions that feel even more meaningful because they're chosen, not obligatory. Taking her advice, Noah and I began creating our own rituals. Sunday morning pancakes, shaped like dinosaurs. Movie night every Friday with homemade popcorn. A calendar where we marked adventure days. Simple outings to new parks or museums that gave us something to anticipate. In February, my mother made an unexpected overture, arriving at our apartment unannounced one Saturday morning. "I should have called," she said nervously when I opened the door, a Tupperware container in her hands. I made Noah's favorite cookies. The chocolate chip ones with the orange zest." I hesitated, torn between enforcing boundaries and acknowledging her effort. Finally, I stepped aside. "He's still in pajamas watching cartoons, but I know he'd love to see you." While Noah excitedly showed his grandmother his latest school art project, I made coffee, watching their interaction with mixed emotions. My mother was genuinely wonderful with Noah, patient, interested, loving. It was this knowledge that made the Thanksgiving rejection so painful. She had chosen to deprive him of that connection to accommodate Rachel. When Noah went to his room to find a book he wanted to show her, my mother turned to me. "I've been thinking a lot about Thanksgiving," she said quietly. "I made the wrong choice, Samantha. I should have stood up to Rachel." It was the closest thing to an apology I'd received, and it caught me off guard. "Yes, you should have," I agreed, not making it easier for her. "I've always tried to keep the peace," she continued, twisting her wedding ring nervously. "Between you and Rachel, between your father, and everyone else. I thought that was my job as a mother, to make everyone happy." "But everyone wasn't happy," I pointed out. "Noah and I certainly weren't." She nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. "I know. I'm trying to do better." It wasn't a complete resolution, but it was a start. When she left an hour later, I felt a subtle shift in our relationship. Not a return to the past, but perhaps the beginning of something more honest. In March, Rachel gave birth to a baby girl, Sophia Eleanor, the middle name a tribute to our grandmother. I learned this not from my parents but from Facebook, where Rachel posted professional newborn photos with the caption, "Our miracle has arrived." My feelings were complicated. Genuine happiness for the child, residual anger at Rachel, sadness at the cousin relationship Noah might never have. After consideration, I sent a small gift, a soft blanket with stars embroidered on it, with a simple card. "Congratulations on your daughter. Wishing her health and happiness. Samantha and Noah." It was the closest I could come to an olive branch without compromising my own boundaries. Rachel never acknowledged the gift directly, though my mother mentioned she had received it. Some wounds would take longer to heal, if they ever did. As Easter approached, the next major family holiday, I felt the familiar pull of tradition. For years, we had gathered at my parents' house for an elaborate Easter lunch followed by an egg hunt in their spacious backyard. Noah had asked several times if we would go to Grandma and Grandpa's for Easter. Rather than letting guilt or obligation dictate my decision, I discussed it openly with Dr. Wilson during a session. "What would a healthy choice look like for both of you?" she asked. After reflection, I decided to propose an alternative to my parents. We would join them for Easter lunch, but we would host it at our apartment. My mother could bring her traditional ham if she wished, but I would prepare most of the meal. My father seemed puzzled by this arrangement, but agreed. "Can Jessica come too?" Noah asked when I told him the plan. "And Alicia and Miguel from next door?" His question crystallized what I had been learning these past months, that family could be defined more broadly than blood relations, that chosen connections often provided the unconditional acceptance I had sought from my parents and sister. "Absolutely," I told him. "We'll invite whoever makes us happy." Planning our Easter celebration, a blend of tradition and new connections, I reflected on the journey since Thanksgiving. The pain hadn't disappeared entirely, but it had transformed into something useful, greater clarity about my worth, stronger boundaries, and a determination to show Noah what healthy relationships looked like. Standing in our kitchen, preparing a shopping list for Easter lunch, I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for years. I was no longer the daughter desperately seeking approval, but a woman creating a life of authentic connections for herself and her son. The Thanksgiving rejection had been painful beyond words, but it had also been a catalyst for growth I might never have experienced otherwise. In losing what I thought was essential, my family's unconditional acceptance, I had gained something more valuable: the knowledge that I could create that acceptance for myself and for Noah. As I added plastic eggs and chocolate bunnies to my list, Noah came into the kitchen, clutching a drawing he'd made at school. "It's our family," he explained, pointing to the figures. There was me, Noah himself, but also Jessica, our neighbors, his school friends, Dr. Wilson, and yes, Grandma and Grandpa, though noticeably smaller, and in the corner of the page. "This is beautiful," I told him, truly meaning it. "You've drawn everyone who matters to us."
Dr.
Wilson says family is who makes your heart feel safe, he said with the simple wisdom of childhood. These people make my heart feel safe. Out of the painful rejection of Thanksgiving had come this precious understanding that family isn't defined by obligation or shared DNA, but by love, respect, and the safety of truly being seen and accepted. I hung Noah's drawing on our refrigerator, a reminder of the family we had built from both old connections and new ones. Looking at those colorful figures, I felt gratitude replace the hurt that had dominated the past months. Have you ever had to redefine what family means to you? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more stories about navigating life's challenging moments. Remember, sometimes the greatest growth comes from our deepest wounds. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to create the family connections that make your heart feel safe, however unconventional they might be.